What is going on, folks? You're here with Jordan and Brian on the MMANonstop.com podcast. MMANonstop.com, your first place for news and info in the world of MMA. We combine your news from all over the web, so you don't have to go find it. We're here at episode 3, and we've got a controversial coach from The Ultimate Fighter season 13. He had a little word or two with Junior Dos Santos and was exited from the show. We're talking to the Titan, Lew Polley. MMANonstop.com. The fight starts here. All right, thank you so much for joining us on the MMANonstop.com podcast. We have Lew Polley join us today. He's the former coach on the Tough 13 representing Junior Dos Santos' team. Lew, how are you?
Fantastic. Great as usual.
Well, good. We're really happy to have you, and we're excited that we can talk to you today.
Oh, thanks, man. It's my pleasure.
All right, Lew. Thanks, man. This is Brian. So, again, thanks for talking with us, and we'll definitely talk about The Ultimate Fighter. But first, I want to learn just a little bit more about you and your career. You've had basically 14 fights, 10 wins, 8 submissions, all that good kind of stuff. What are you up to in your career right now?
Regrouping, actually. Just focusing on myself right now. You know, like, of course, helping guys like Chris Camozzi and Chase Hackett and a few younger guys, but for the most part, this is like one of the few times in my career where I actually get to focus on myself. So I'm doing that, dropping down to a new weight class, going to 185. So it's just a lot of different things to help progress my game and, you know, really pushing a lot of my lesser strengths and catching up pretty much. Yeah. So what made you decide to take a cut down to 185? Quentin Rampage, Jackson, Forrest Griffin.
Absolutely, yeah.
All the oak trees in the division, and like weight and muscle, you can always lose. You can't lose height. You know what I mean? I'm only 6 feet tall, so a lot of the guys are like 6'4", 6'3". Gustafson is like 6'5". I got to train with him. Even Tito, you know, is huge, and it's like okay. And Anthony Johnson, like I'm decent friends with Anthony Johnson, and we've gotten to hang out a few times, and I've talked with him. Pretty much, man, you know, just listening to him talk about it, and he's giving me some good advice about going down weight class, and, you know, and I should just make the cut and really focus and be dedicated. So big ups to AJ for that advice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we'll jump over to The Ultimate Fighter real quick. Why did you decide to do that? Why did you make that part of one of those steps in your career?
I actually didn't want to, because I'm pretty self-assured. Like, I know that my style is not for everybody, and I know that just off on the surface, I'm going to rub people the wrong way, unintentionally. So I didn't even want to do the show. My manager and a good friend of mine, the owner of the Armory, Joe Mullings, actually talked me into it. So, you know, they were like, well, look, you can get a fight anytime. You can't do the Tough show anytime you want. So they both were like, just do it. And then, you know, I try to confirm with Ed Soares and Junior. You know, I told them both, you know, I didn't want to do it at first. And then they talked, and oh, for Junior, help Junior. And I said, okay, as long as I can coach the way I want and the way I always coach. And they said, okay. So that's kind of how it went.
Great. So you mentioned Junior, and, you know, just quickly, wanted just to have you kind of hash out, you know, what happened with Junior that, you know, ultimately ended up having you leave the show?
I think the biggest thing was just attention. You know, he asked me to do a job. I did what he asked, and he kind of saw how much attention was coming my way for doing that job. And the fact of the matter is, you know, the language barrier, not between he and I, but he with the other guys. So it's like the guys that ask me questions, ask my opinion on certain things, and, you know, just life stuff sometimes. Or how do you deal with this? How do you deal with that? And they really weren't coming to Junior with that type of stuff. And I kind of think it was getting to him. You know, it was bothering him because he's like, well, I'm the guy that's fighting Brock, and, you know, I'm going to be the guy that's going to wear the title and this and that. Why are they asking me questions? Like, stuff like that, you know, like petty stuff. And it was just coming to a head because he really just wanted to be the guy, period. You know, just No one else. It's everything, focused on me and what I'm doing, and this and that. Because now, like, even if you watch the episodes, none of the other coaches talk. None of them say anything. It's just him. And he's the only one that can speak decent English, so it's like, now he's the focal point. You know what I mean? People watching the show don't really understand what they're watching, because now it's the other English-speaking person's out of the equation. So now everything has to go through and to Junior. So now, he's it. So I think that was the biggest issue.
So, on the show, it seemed like you were, it seemed like you were a little surprised when it happened. I mean, could you tell that, like, tensions were coming to a head and that something was happening?
I knew something was going to happen. I didn't think that. I think it was because after every workout that I ran, or I worked with the guys, I pulled Junior aside. I was like, "Is this okay? Is this what you wanted? Is this how we should do it?" Of course, they cut that out. But every workout, I would ask Billy, "I'm like, is this okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's great. It was good. I like this. I like that." I'm like, "Okay." So then, once the cameras roll, "Oh, Lew is this. I don't like the way Lew does this. Lew is that." And it was two totally different things, because he was very cognizant of that. Like, okay, the camera's off, so I can say, whatever. Camera's on. Oh, Lew is just in the way and this and... Like, bro, you could easily just tell me, and I wouldn't even come to the training session. You know what I mean? Like, just tell me. Like, we were in the same apartment together, and I would ask him there, like, how is this? What should we do? Not a word. "Oh, everything's great." Okay. You know what I mean? So I didn't really know until it happened.
So I imagine that a lot of the dynamic changed on that team since you left. What do you think? What have you thought of the rest of the season?
It sucks. I mean, like, I don't mean it like derogatory. I mean, it just sucks watching, because I know what my intentions were, and I know what the team was when I was there. You can hate me all day. That's fine. But the fact of the matter is, numbers don't lie. When I was there, we were 4-2 with 2 close decision losses. Since me, Justin's lost, Shamar's lost, and Javier's lost. So they're 1-3 right now. The numbers don't lie, bro. Like you said, people could say, "Oh, you're pushing them too hard. You're this, you're that. You're a prick. You're arrogant." Okay, fine. I'm not there, but they seem to be losing more often. So I mean, it's basic, man. It's just numbers. You can't deny with what's going on. So when you see the training sessions, the guys were intense, they were focused, they were ready to go. Now you see it's lax, people joking, people playing, they're not focused, and they're losing. So,
yeah, one thing, you mentioned, some of the losses that, that Team Dos Santos has had, and you mentioned Shamar, and, he fought last week, and he lost to Chris Cope, and a lot of people have seen that decision, they might have questioned it, but I spoke with Shamar last week just on Twitter, and I asked him, what would have been different had you still been there to coach him, and this is what he said. He said that he was very limited with what I could do wrestling-wise due to my back, but Lew would have shown me some techniques I could have used that would have, without having to use my back. So what would you have done with Shamar?
I would have totally changed his approach to the fight. Like, he and I talked about this in detail, and I told him honestly what I thought about the fight. And I said, the fact of the matter is, you didn't get your hand raised. That's the first thing that needs to be addressed. You didn't get your hand raised. Then after we cleared that whole thing up, I just said, look, you were too aggressive and following. The thing was, while you were being so aggressive, Chris was baiting you into his game. Because I told him, like, every time Chris would float to that black line, you would start your shot, knowing Chris would know that you couldn't finish your shot because the cage was behind him. So it looks to you like you're being aggressive and cornering him off. But actually you're helping Chris because you can't take Chris down because you're running into the cage. You understand? Because he's starting his shot so late from the black line. Mm-hmm. And then now he's shooting full speed and ending up in the cage where Chris is not bad. So then Chris can scrap and use the cage for balance and then go from there and still be kind of 50-50. as opposed to being on his back and definitely losing. So I told Shamar, someone should have told you to adjust, like not chase and just stand in the center and make him come to you, because whoever controls the center in a fight like that is going to dictate the pace. So I said you could do those types of things and start your shot sooner instead of like pulling your back, pushing your back. Just simple knee taps, knee picks, body locks off the insides, trips and things like that. And it was basic stuff that we could have gone over and just drilled and worked into the game plan instead of put him down at the game plan. That's not really the best game plan.
Yeah.
For a guy like Chris, you know. And, you know, Shamar was frustrated. You know, he said they didn't really work on a game plan. They didn't really, you know, work on specifics. They didn't really do anything in training that would correlate to winning in a fight, you know?
All right, guys, that's part one of our interview with former tough coach Lew Polley. Stay tuned for part two right here on YouTube. MMAnonstop.com. The fight starts here.